Welcome to Multi-Studio Mastery, a show where we nerd out on studio growth, leadership, and operational excellence in boutique fitness. I'm your host, Tessa Thomas, co-founder of Pipeline Solutions. We work behind the scenes with studio owners and operators to streamline back-end chaos, improve retention, and scale sustainably. On this podcast, I sit down with industry leaders, multi-studio owners, and operators in the thick of it, so we can unpack what's really working and what's just noise. If you're building a stronger, smarter studio, you're in the right place. Hey everyone, today on Multi-Studio Mastery, I'm joined by someone who needs no introduction to our team, my co-founder and the operator behind some of the top performing F45s in the network, John Ledbrook. So from his time as a Royal Australian Navy clearance diver to representing Australia as a national track and field athlete, John brings a high performance mindset to everything he does. And when it comes to running studios, he's definitely focused on one thing, just scaling operations without scaling complexity. So in this episode, we're going to pull back the curtain on what it really takes to build high performing studios, hopefully without burning out your team, your members, or yourself. So welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Tessa. I'm excited to finally be invited on here after two seasons. And now I get the
Sure.
call up.
Yeah, no, the invite this was the first time you heard about the podcast. You got an
It was
invite,
in the
definitely.
mail, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. No, this has been in the works for some time. I'm glad we finally, found some time to do it. I think it's a great way to wrap up season 2. We've had some really great operators and guests on, and I think for me personally, in this space, you have always been that person and the person I've seen operate in boutique fitness at a really high level since I kind of entered the game. So I'd love to have you share a bit about what you're doing kind of before you got into boutique, like a little bit of background, and then what kind of drew you to
Mhm.
the space.
Look, I mean, we could wrap this podcast up so quick because I feel like in the intro there, you actually summarized something, and I hadn't really thought about it too much. But you said about scaling without the complexity, and we'll dive into my background and the rest of it. But I didn't necessarily have any business running the business of fitness. And I had to learn along the way. And I guess I just bought a skill set or a mindset that we would work it out and we'd make it work. I needed to be simple. I didn't need to
Yeah.
overcomplicate things. And I just needed to work and I need to be able to replicate it. And I need to be able to have people alongside me that brought the right skill sets that I didn't have to be able to slot in and be part of that team. So I've always been in fitness. I've always been in sport. I've always been um, competitive. And, as an Aussie, like you actually aren't even given a choice. You play sport and
Yeah.
that's what you do, right? So I've always been heavily involved in it. Love the performance side of it. That's why I sort of went into the degree that I did. That evolved into working as part of a contract actually with University of Wollongong and then working with the Royal Australian Navy clearance divers where we're assessing them because they were essentially the most high performance team in the Navy, but they had a really high injury rate. So they asked me to come in. I was doing a study. I was employed by the university, and we're actually engaged in doing a study for the Department of Defense as to why these, guys were getting injured, and
Yeah.
essentially they were athletes and high performance athletes, but they weren't treating their job or their
Right.
career as an athlete. So, one thing led to another, and I wanted to test myself. And, these guys being the elite, I wanted to see, hey, like this looks hard, this looks scary, but
Mhm.
can I do it?
Do you think you're innately drawn to high performance?
I often, now that I'm raising my own kids,
Yeah.
and sometimes they seem so unmotivated, which
Right.
is which is frustrating as a parent. You're like,
Yeah.
come on. So I try and think back and like what motivated me, and was it my parents? Like, where did that influence come from that drove me to want to do well? And even speaking to my parents and other people and sort of psychs and things, there was just an internal motivation. I
Yeah.
just wanted to do well, and I wanted to see what I could do. It was never the end goal of winning the Olympics. It
Right.
was When we're talking specifically about discus, it's like, how far can I throw this thing?
I think when you come from a sport background, the hard part with business is in sport, like you mentioned, how far can I throw this thing? Like the goal is so tangible in the sense
Mhm.
of I need to improve literally kind of this one thing. And then it becomes about the inputs to improve that. And those are very specific, right? It's like I need more torque, I need to generate more power through my legs or whatever that is. It's like simple but not easy. It's like the it becomes actually very clear what
Yeah,
needs to be done. And then the hard part is doing the work. And I think the hard part oftentimes with business is it can just get so muddy sometimes in terms of what is that input actually that I need to work on to get the output, at the end of the road.
it's actually a really good analysis because that athlete that is used to high performance, they're used to a coach saying, this is what you
Totally.
need to fix.
Yeah.
Most of entrepreneurs don't have that, won't spend on that, or don't think it's necessary. They're working it as they go. Now, if you're an athlete and you're in the work it out as you go phase, you've still got tools. You've got video
Right.
analysis. You can watch YouTube of the best athlete doing the same thing you're trying to do,
Yeah.
and then you can compare your video. Oh, I need more knee drive or whatever it
Right.
is.
Totally.
Oh, I need more core strength. Like, and you can make those like pie charts that we always see like on the wagon wheel thing, right?
Right.
Where am I weakest on the wagon wheel? Right, that's where I need to work. The hardest bit about the wagon wheel is we're usually weak in that area because it's the one thing we don't want to do. So
Yeah,
then when you actually have to
exactly.
face it and do it, you still don't want to do it. And I think a lot of time in business ownership, even if you've got that wagon wheel and maybe you've got a coach and maybe you've got this, analysis of what needs to happen, a
Right.
lot of the time owners still don't want to do it because that's the hard bit.
For sure.
And it's the area that doesn't get improved, and it's where they just don't reach their potential.
And I think as well, the tricky thing is the lack of specificity with comparison. You don't really know what people have done to get a certain result unless you're talking directly to them, even if it's in the same type of business.
We see it all the time, and like to sort of leap into its pipelines and how we try and help our clients. We see it all the time. Is somebody in Toronto might be doing X and they're getting results with that, and then somebody in Florida, completely different seasons, clients might think, oh, well, they're doing this, so I'm going to
Yeah,
do the same thing.
for
It's
sure.
completely irrelevant half the time.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
has absolutely no
Yeah.
bearing
Totally.
on what needs to happen at your location. Like,
Yeah.
and you need that information. And then, all those other inputs take those other bits on as well. But it's
Right.
like, okay, what's relevant to what's happening right here where I am? Like, what do I need to fix?
Before we get into more on pipeline, I wanted
Mm.
to ask you about, having been in the high performance environments that you have been in. I mean, prior to boutique, how do you think those environments shaped your leadership style?
I like to focus on leading by example and coming from that military, that special forces background, the leading by example, I find is the most effective way to have the team in there with you. As a military example, if the officers, sort of weren't going in there or they weren't willing to do what you were doing, you don't have that team camaraderie. And they need to be in there in the trenches with you. And plus, it was also the only way I knew how to do things. I
Right.
didn't have any formal training in business management, leadership courses. I've never done any of that.
Yeah.
So it was sort of learnt by experience, but definitely it was the best way that I could show this is how we want to get this done.
So then with that in mind, what are the types of characteristics or like who are you looking for from a hiring perspective when you're thinking of a GM that's going to maybe oversee multiple locations or a head trainer or even just or just day-to-day coaches?
Yeah, well, that's the million-dollar question right
It
there.
is.
How do you hire? I feel like it used to be a simple equation. And again, this was one that I learned really on the job, even yourself coming along with that high performance athletic background. And then a little bit by default, the managers that we hired, the other coaches that we hired, and the ones that had success with us, I don't know if it was a like-mindedness approach or what it was, but certainly what we saw, the ones that had success were the ones that had done well in the sporting field. I don't know, it seems so exclusionary to say that, but that was just what we noticed, right? Like
Yeah.
those that were willing to put in the work. Things have shifted hugely because I'm talking pre-pandemic and there's just been a massive change since then. What do we look for now? A lot of the same things, but it's more now like who's prepared to be consistent. We find the lack of consistency today
Right.
really challenging. People that can't actually manage the time, be reliable, and be accountable for their actions, because then we can train them, they can learn,
Yeah.
they can actually, help and be an asset rather than a liability because, well, are they going to be there? They might be a great trainer, might be a great staff member,
Right.
but are they actually going to be there and help when it counts?
What are some of the things you do to try and keep those teams aligned when you're not in the building?
That's the hardest part, once you start to scale, right? Is
Yeah.
that remote ownership. How do you have a team still perform the way that you want them to perform when you're not there? The most effective thing that you can do to at least shore up and have the best chance of that happening is the systems that you've got in place. So if there's systems, the team is trained on those systems, they know how things work, it becomes a production line. And then it's just a matter of like, hopefully you can plug and play. And if somebody leaves, somebody else can step in and just take over and continue on in
Mhm.
that role because you've got the systems in place. And then when those systems are in place, it's then just about having certain expectations around how that is getting done.
Right.
And is that team member executing on, the level that it's expected? Once you break it down into small tasks and you take a lot of it out of the hands of that individual, it becomes a lot less overwhelming for them because now they just have to execute on that. Okay, this is what I got to do now. X, Y, Z, bang, bang, bang.
Right.
And they know how to do their job and everyone's standards are met.
So from a performance perspective, then what do you think separates a good studio from a great one?
Again, it's sort of sport, it's cliche, it's the one percenters. Like, is it any different from a sports team? It's those one percenters. You can have like the basics going really well. You can make a good studio, but if the little details are lacking, you'll never be a great studio. Whether it's the coaching, the presentation, the equipment, the communication. If any of these are just lacking, just missing slightly, you'll have a good studio because
Right.
you're still delivering a good product and coaching might be good, but those little bits is what's going to sort of really push it next level.
Our audience might not fully know kind of what Spark Pipeline, what metrics, from a studio performance perspective, matter most to you, and then how did that kind of create Pipeline, I guess?
When I started and opened my first studio 10 years ago, I didn't really know what mattered. And there were certainly not many people around to teach you what mattered in boutique fitness at that time. I was told give people a free trial and then they'll come and then they'll join. I'm like, sweet, I can do
Right.
that. This is a great
That's
business.
okay.
We quickly learned that that's not how life works. So I then really started getting interested in our leads. How many leads are we getting in?
Right.
How many leads do we need to be able to grow? Because we didn't know what a conversion rate was or what our conversion rate was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was sort of jumping from A to Z. Like, how do I grow? Okay, well, how many leads do I need? And then I started filling in the gaps in between. So I'm like, okay, well, sort of back to that sport analogy, break down the steps. This is my end game. How do we get there? Sort of what you're pointing to is like, how did pipelines come about? Well, there wasn't that information.
Right.
And there was nobody teaching us that information. And it was really hard to get. So with the software that we were using, it was so hard to get that information,
Mm-hmm.
decipher it, put it into spreadsheets, all these kind of things. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. Why is this so hard?
Why is this? Luckily I had a great team around me and I knew the people to reach out to. And you were the first one there when it was like, hey Tessa, I need to I think it was a spreadsheet. I'm like, can we, I need this information and I've got to do this manually, but like, can't this happen automatically? Like,
Hmm.
why have I got to go in and pull this report?
For sure.
And then, that was probably the first day that I heard or learn about Zaps and Zapier and, all these kind
Oh
of
man,
things.
you're taking me back now. Yeah, I think it
Or,
was the Trello moving leads through a
yeah, moving the cards through the
moving the
Trello
yeah,
board.
exactly. But before it was like sheets, like their trial form or something was being moved through like leaves of a binder or something to track what day of their trial they were on or something. It
Oh,
was
like
like,
actual physical
yeah,
paper,
like
wasn't it?
yeah,
It was.
yeah, it was just
It was
really
like one of those accordion
yeah,
binders.
that thank you. An accordion binder. Yes. It was we were tracking trials in an accordion binder, like of it's like each part of the accordion was like a day in a 30-day window, right? So it's like, oh, this
Oh,
person's on day
wow.
7. And I was like,
And
I
you
think
know
there's
what's
a different way here.
the funniest thing is here?
Yeah.
Like we're talking like this was 1960 when we opened this gym. This was 2016 and maybe you joined us in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. What do you think, kind of speaking to that, why does being an operator built solution matter? I guess, we've taken so much feedback,
Mm.
sorry, now from owners over the years to kind of build into pipeline. And why do you think that matters so much?
I think what we've ended up with is a user-friendly platform, a very owner-friendly platform. And we get that feedback all the time. And I think that's just because of the history, right, of like how it started is,
Right.
you and I had been in the trenches. We'd seen everything that you could do the wrong way. And, starting with an accordion folder to then, okay, it could be this. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then as an owner, we're like, okay, well, the next thing in my daily operations,
Right.
which is a manual task and it's just laborious and there's no need for it to be manual, how do we add this in? How do we add this in? So we were able from the ground up to build in every procedure, every operation you need to run a successful studio. We're able to build that from the ground up versus the other way. Now, I can't speak to the other way because I've only done it this way, but if I was
Right.
coming in as a tech dev and someone saying, hey, can you build me a fitness software platform? They'd have a completely different approach to it. And they'd be trying to dictate, well, you need to know this and you need to know that. And like, okay, that's all helpful, but that I don't do that day to day. That doesn't help me in the studio.
What's the mindset shift that you've had? It's not really from because you're still a studio owner, but from studio owner to tech co-founder.
I don't know how much I can comment about, being in the software industry. I don't feel like I'm in the industry. I'm not out there mixing with tech
Mhm.
people and, apart from you and I and Mike and the team, like I'm not out there, talking about Zaps or webhooks or all those other different things. The huge obvious shift is I went from being a gym person, which was coach well, put on a good class, know your product, and then trying to work out the business side
Mm,
into understanding the numbers and how much the numbers matter. And I was
right.
never excited about a spreadsheet or numbers before, but
Right.
then as I started to understand that and shift into that, it's really easy now. I'm a data nerd now, like, and that's
There you go.
cool. Like knowing those numbers and being able to see it on a dashboard, like everything that's going on in the studio.
Yeah.
Um, it's incredible. And I feel like I think I've said this to someone before, and it seems really silly, but I feel like it's kind of like the Matrix. As that studio owner, you're in the Matrix. You're in there, you're grinding, you're doing the work. But now, as you step back and you can see the numbers, and they're all just, it's like
Right.
Neo, like
Yeah.
all those numbers, they're just falling in front of your face, and you can read exactly what's going on
Right.
just from those numbers.
Yeah.
And any studio, I can open up the dashboard for any studio in the world that we're working with, and I can look at that, and within seconds, I can pretty much guarantee I know what the problem is in that studio and what needs to change.
I love that. All right. We've got two questions just to round up. So, what advice would you give to an owner that's feeling stuck?
Oh, stuck is the hardest place. It is the hardest one to be in because you've tried everything, you've thrown money at everything. If you are stuck, there are people now that can help. So there's
Right.
advice everywhere. And you can take that advice, but you've got to work out what's happening in your studio. The big part of that is also reflecting on yourself. It's like,
Right.
what role am I playing in this? And I think quite often owners probably assume they can do no wrong. So if you're stuck, what role are you playing in it?
I mean, the biggest lesson I've learned over the last, 5 or 6 years with Pipeline and coming into this is just we have to grow for the business to grow.
And the same goes for the studio. If the studio isn't evolving and growing with needs and demands, like it's not, especially if we're talking F45, it's not 2016 anymore. Like people aren't just turning up to F45 because it's F45. Like you have to evolve, you have to grow with it, you have to keep updating, and your approach as an owner or operator has to evolve with that as well. It's
Totally.
not just do things as they always were because you're getting left behind. There's more evolved owners coming in and they're just doing a better job. They're doing all the one percenters.
All right, John, last question. It's a relatively
Mm.
easy one, but what are you excited about over the next 12, 18 months or into 2026?
I'm like in the back of my brain rattling around is like, okay, we need to start getting marketing campaigns sorted for
Mm,
2026 for the studios. That bit will be kind of straightforward because January
done
2026,
it
same as
before.
January
Yeah,
2025.
for sure. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that bit's all good. But what am I excited about? Look, the direction that we're going with pipelines right now, it's so cool. I actually really enjoy learning something new. And this has been a massive learning curve for me this year. The actual software developers out there won't want to give me any credit, but I'm calling myself a software dev now and a tech nerd.
you got the
Um,
badge. You're good. Good.
I don't know that I do, but look, I love learning new things,
Yeah,
and I think that's why I've evolved in my careers several different times. Is sort of like that thing you keep chase.
totally.
You get to the top of the game, and like,
Yeah.
now what?
Yeah,
And
I'm seeing a through line here, chasing
yeah,
B2B SaaS, which is one of probably a
yeah,
space you never
well,
thought you'd be in, but
of
another
course
very
not.
big challenge to be successful, in all honesty.
And there is no end game of like, well, I want this to be the biggest software company in the world. Like, I want to
Mhm.
take out Bill Gates. Like, that isn't, furthest thing from what I want to do. Who can I help?
Right.
Because every time that I speak to a new owner and onboard somebody new, help them out with their problems, I know that we're solving something for them
Yeah,
that I've been through, and that needed solving. And the relief when we can solve that for them
for
is
sure.
just worth every phone call. And it's the same as when I will, coach somebody in the studio because I still coach once a week. Being able to help somebody squat better, deadlift better, feel better. They're the little bits in that journey along the way that just, I think that's what you do it for.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, John. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and also being, a co-founder here at Pipeline along the journey with me and our team. And yeah, thanks for coming on and everybody listening. This was a great kind of wrap to season 2, and we hope you'll come back and listen to season 3 of Multi Studio Mastery.
Thanks, Tessa. Thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure. And it's amazing working with you. So, thanks for everything that you've done as well over, what are we at? 7 years, something like that, 8 years into this journey now?
Lost
Maybe
track now.
more.
I think this is where we stop counting anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
maybe
Yeah.
more.
But
Yeah,
uh,
100%.
it's
All
great
right,
every step with you. So, love it. Thanks,
100%.
Tess.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Multi Studio Mastery. If you're building a studio business you're proud of and these conversations are helping, do us a favor and leave a review. Or send this to someone else in the trenches. Every share helps more owners get insight they need to scale the right way. And don't forget, the free Studio Operations Toolkit is always available in the show notes, along with other resources we've mentioned today. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next time.